Hello everyone, welcome back to the lecture series on analog electronics. This lecture series is a part of Let's Crack the Gate initiative by TechCube faculties. So let's revisit what we have seen so far. So now we know about transistors, what are the different classification of transistors, and out of that classification we have singled out BJT and we have dissected it. That means we know the characteristics of BJT, different configurations of BJT, as well as we have a slight idea how BJT can be used as an amplifier. Now we are going to discuss this in further, that is BJT as an amplifier. In a previous lecture, we have seen how common base configuration can be acting as a voltage amplifier, but common emitter configuration is mostly used as a voltage, current and power amplifier. So in this lecture, we will see how common emitter configuration can be used as an amplifier, and before getting into that, we'll see what is an amplifier and how many types there are and in which category common emitter configuration falls in. Alright, so let's start. So we know that an amplifier increases the level of a given signal. That is, if we are giving a current signal, it will increase the amplitude of the current signal. If we are giving a voltage signal, it will increase the amplitude of the voltage signal, and if we are using the amplifier as a power amplifier, it will increase the power of our input signal to a higher value. Okay, so what I'm saying can be shown by a diagram. So our amplifier will look like this, just using a box to represent that. This is our amplifier, and here we have our input, and here we have our output, right? Let's say this is our input. I'm using sinusoidal signals for analysis. So this is our input signal. Let's say it has a magnitude of Vi. The peak is Vi. So at the output, by whatever we have said, amplifier increases the level of our input signal. So at the output, we will get something like this, where the voltage level of our input has been increased, right? So if our amplifier has a gain A, now this peak is A Vi. This is our V out of T. T. This is also T, right? But this is not possible. How can this be possible? Because at the input we have a lower energy level and at the output we have a higher energy level, right? The energy has to remain constant. If there is only input and output, that means the energy levels are changing. That means this device is not following the first law of thermodynamics. So this is not the actual diagram of an amplifier. We need to give a booster here or a power here or a power source, and that power source will be a DC source, and this DC source will increase the energy level of our input. So the power for this amplifier is provided by this DC source, and because of that this input is amplified here. Okay, this is the working of an amplifier. Now we can classify the amplifiers. So one classification is as non-inverting amplifier and inverting amplifier. Now in non-inverting amplifier, the input and output are in the same phase. And in inverting amplifier, input and output are 180-degree out of phase. We can draw the characteristics, that is input and output voltage characteristics. I am only considering the voltage amplifier is here. So this is our input and output. Okay. Now, so as input increases, the output either remains 0 or it is changed by a small value, and after that it increases, and finally it reaches a constant value. This is the DC level. Most of the voltage amplifiers can only attain up to the DC level. Some power amplifiers can go beyond this level. Some configurations of power amplifiers. Depending on the output DC level, it can have different characteristics like this. Okay. Now let's say this is the Q point of our transistor. So this is the point where the biasing has put the transistor to. This is the initial DC voltage of the transistor, output voltage of the transistor. Our input will go above this level and below this level because this is already set at this DC level. Okay. Now let's say this is our input. Okay, this is our input signal Vi. If you project this to the characteristics, we can see that input reaches here, this reaches here. That means once the input has increased this much voltage, this is the change in input. So if input increases up to this level, the output will increase to this level. And if the input is increasing in the negative direction up to this level, the output increases to this level. Okay, that means initially our output will be here. Then as input increases in this direction, that is the positive direction, output also increases and it reaches this level. When the input decreases and increase in the other direction, the output will go to this level. And the change in input is sinusoidal. So the change in output will also be sinusoidal. This positive and negative half cycles will have the same magnitude. This is my poor drawing skill. Don't mind that. So this is our output. So you can see that for a smaller change in input, we are getting larger change in the output. And input and output are in the same phase, right? So if we draw the characteristics of an inverting transistor, it will look like this. This is V out and this is Vi. Initially the output is a high value. As input changes, it will fall to a low value after a particular level of input. Okay, so the characteristic looks like this, and this is one characteristics. We can draw other characteristics here, so it will look like this. Okay, now let's say this is our Q point. So we can show the input here. This is our input. So if the input increases here, the output has fallen to this point, right? We can project this input to the characteristics and see that if the input increases, output decreases, and if the input increases in the negative direction or if the input decreases, the output increases. So our output will look like this. If the input is increasing, output is increasing in the opposite direction, and if the input is negative, output is positive. So here we can see that the input and output are 180-degree out of phase, but we can also see that amplification occurs. Okay, so this is non-inverting and inverting amplifiers. Now we can see the other classification of amplifiers. The first one is called voltage amplifier. This classification is based on the input and output quantities of an amplifier. Second is called a current amplifier. Third one is called transconductance amplifier. And fourth one is called transresistance amplifier. Okay, now let's see what these are. So we'll start with voltage amplifier. In voltage amplifier, both the input and output are voltages. Now we can draw the equivalent circuit of our voltage amplifier. So it will look like this. Here we have our Vs, which is the signal. Then the signal source will have a source resistance. This is Rs. After this, our amplifier circuit comes, and the amplifier circuit is modeled as a two-port network. Here we have a voltage controlled voltage source. And there is the output resistance of our amplifier and the load resistance. Now this is the amplifier part. At the input of our amplifier, we have plus or minus V in. So this voltage controlled voltage source will have an output of A into V in, where A is the gain of this amplifier. Here we have R out, and this is the load resistance RL, and across load resistance RL we have the V out. Now for effective amplification of this amplifier, there are some conditions to be satisfied, and the first condition is Rn must be very much greater than Rs. So this is Rn. This must be very much greater than Rs, and ideally Rn must be equal to infinity. The second condition is the value of R out must be very much less than RL, or ideally R out must be equal to 0. So if you look at the figure, you can understand why. That is, if we want maximum V in here, Rn must be a very high value, so that most of the voltage from the source, that is signal, drops across this resistance. And if we look at here, we need most of the voltage here dropping across the load resistance, and a very small amount of voltage should be dropped across this resistance R. Okay, so this is the condition for effective amplification of a voltage amplifier. Now the second type of amplifier is called current amplifier. And for current amplifier, both the input and output are currents. The equivalent circuit looks like this. The input is a current source, and across this there is a parallel resistance, and our amplifier begins here. There is a resistance here. Again, it is modeled as a two-port network. So here we have a current controlled current source, a parallel resistance here, and a load resistance. This is the amplifier part. This is Is, this is Rs, and the current flowing into the amplifier is called I in. This is the input resistance of the amplifier Rin. This is a current controlled current source, as it has a gain A. So this is A into I in. This is R out, and this is RL. Here we have the output current I out. Okay. Now what will be the condition for Rin and Rs? Rin must have a very small value compared to Rs. The reason is most of Is must be flowing into Rin, that is most of Is must be flowing as I in. So Rs must have a very large value compared to Rin. Our area of interest is amplifier, so we can say that Rin must have a very small value compared to Rs, or Rin ideal will be equal to 0. The second case is for R out. So if we look at R out, we can see that most of I out should flow out of this amplifier and into RL. That means R out must have a very high value compared to RL. So R out must be very much greater than RL. So R out ideal can be or said to be equal to infinity. So this is a current amplifier. Now the third type of amplifier is called transconductance amplifier. Here the input is voltage and output is current. Now we can draw the equivalent circuit of this transconductance amplifier. The input is voltage, so there will be a voltage source Vs. Now there is a series resistance with the source called the source resistance Rs. Now the input of this transconductance amplifier will look like the input of a voltage amplifier, and output of this transconductance amplifier will look like the output of a current amplifier. So here we have Rin, and this will be the amplification element will be a voltage controlled current source, and there will be the parallel resistance and also the parallel resistance across the load. This is RL. Now this is Rin, this is R out, this is our amplifier, here we have our V in. So this is a voltage controlled current source. So we can write the equation for this as Gm into V in, where Gm is called transconductance ratio. Now this is the equivalent circuit of a transconductance amplifier. Now we can see how Rin and R out should look like. So in this case, again Rin must be very much higher than Rs, or Rin ideal must be equal to infinity. R out must be very much greater than RL. So R out ideal will be equal to infinity. That you can see from here. Most of the input voltage should fall on Rin, so Rin must be a very high value compared to Rs, and most of the output current should flow into RL. That means R out should be a very large value. So these two are very high, Rin and R out. And the fourth type of amplifier is called a trans resistance amplifier. And here the input is current and output is voltage. So the input will look like that of a current amplifier and output will look like that of a voltage amplifier. So the equivalent diagram will be like this. There is a current source Is, a parallel resistance to the source which is Rs. Now a parallel resistance, the Rin of our amplifier, a current controlled voltage source, and the series resistance of that, and the output resistance, that is the load resistance. This is RL. Here we have our amplifier. This is the input current to the amplifier, In. Here we have the output voltage across the amplifier, Vout. This is Rin. This is now a voltage source which depends on the input current, In. So this can be written as some resistance Rm into In. In. This is R out. So from the diagram we can see that Rin must have a very small value compared to Rs, so that more current flows into it, and R out should also have a very small value so that most of the voltage is dropped across the load resistance. So here both Rin and R out are very low for effective amplification. So here we can say that Rin ideal must be equal to 0 and R out ideal must be equal to 0. So this is a trans resistance amplifier and this is the equivalent diagram of a trans resistance amplifier. Okay. So now you have an idea what are the different types of transistors. So we can now check how BJT acts as an amplifier. Okay. So for this we will select the common emitter configuration with fixed bias. So this is the circuit. Here we have RC. Here there is VCC. Emitter is connected to the ground. Now there is no base resistance. Here we are giving a separate supply for the base. It is not derived from VCC. So we can call the supply VBE, variable, and also there is a signal which is AC. Now this AC is applied across this base emitter junction, so we are going to call it VBE. Now see that the AC signal is denoted by small letters and DC signal is denoted by capital letters. Small VBE means pure AC signal, pure AC input signal, and capital VBE means pure DC input signal. So here we will have two currents, one because of the DC supply we have given and one because of the AC supply we have given. So pure DC current IB and pure AC current IC. Because of this, there will be two collector currents, DC equivalent and AC equivalent collector current. Same here for IE, DC and AC currents. Okay. So the standard is like this. If both the notation and the subscripts are capital, that means it is a DC signal, pure DC signal. If both are small letters, then that is a pure AC signal. And if the notation is small and subscript is capital, that means it is the DC plus AC value. Okay. So in this case, we can write IE as some saturation current IS into e to the power VBE by eta VT. IC is equal to alpha IE and VCE is equal to VCC minus ICRC. We have already seen these equations, and that will be equal to VCC minus IC is now alpha IE and IA is now IS into e to the power VBE by eta VT. So alpha into IS into e to the power VBE divided by eta VT into RC. So this is the value of VCE. Okay, so we can see that VCE and VBE has a relationship, and if VBE is 0, so this term becomes a very small value, because if VBE is 0, this is e to the power 0, which becomes 1. Alpha is a small value, IS is a small value, and if RC is also small, then VCE will be equal to VCC. We can explain this in other terms also. So let's see this. We'll draw a graph between input and output voltages. Here we have VBE, which is the input voltage, and here we have the output voltage VCE. So this is output. Okay, so when VB is very small, that means if we are not giving any DC signal to this, if we are not giving any DC supply to this, IB will be equal to 0. If IB is equal to 0, that we can see from the input characteristics, IC will be in the cutoff region, that we can see from the output characteristic. So if IC is not flowing, that means across this transistor we will get the entire VCC. So initially when VB is equal to 0, VCE will be equal to VCC, and as VB increases beyond a point where IB starts to flow extensively, let's say this is around 0.6 volt or 0.7 volt, then VCC starts to drop, because IC is increasing and most of VCC will be dropped in the resistance RC. So this will drop and it will follow this relationship, VCE equal to VCC minus alpha IS e to the power VBE by eta VT into RC. So it will have a graph like this, and then after a particular point this will come down like this. So the voltage where it is almost a constant again, that is around 0.8 volt. So we can differentiate these regions. This will be the cutoff region, this will be the active region, and this will be the saturation region. So as an amplifier, our BJT will be operating in this region. So let's say this is our Q point because of the fixed bias. We can denote it like this. And now we are applying our AC signal here, because our BJT is now raised to this Q point. It is now operating at this point without any AC signal, and we are going to apply our AC signal. That means that AC signal is going to be applied at this point. So we can show the AC signal here, and that is the input signal here and the output signal here. So if this is our AC input, which is our small VBE, then this corresponds to an output that will look like this, because we have already seen this characteristics, and this characteristics belongs to the inverting type of amplifier. So this is our VCE. Okay. So when we give an input here, that means it is actually VBE, which is equal to VBE plus VBE. And our output is actually VCE, which is equal to VCE plus VCE. So from this equation, let's call it equation number 3. So from equation number 3, we can arrive at a relation for input and output voltages. If we are giving VCE here, that means VCE will be equal to capital VCC minus alpha Is into e to the power VBE by eta Vt into RC. Now this VC is the combined AC and DC signal, and VBE is also the combined AC and DC signal. So VCE will be equal to VCC minus alpha into Is into this VBE becomes small VBE plus capital VBE. So this exponential term becomes e to the power VBE divided by eta Vt into e to the power VBE divided by eta Vt. So many VBEs into RC. Right? Now we can approximate this e to the power VBE divided by eta Vt to 1 plus VBE divided by eta Vt, because VBE is a small value. So our VCE becomes VCC minus alpha Is into 1 plus VBE divided by eta Vt into e to the power VBE divided by eta Vt into RC. Now this is done because VBE divided by eta Vt is very much less than 1. Okay. So this is our final VCE. Now let's expand this. So VCE is now equal to VCC minus alpha Is e to the power VBE by eta Vt into RC minus alpha into Is into VBE by eta Vt into e to the power VBE by eta Vt into RC. Now VCC minus alpha Is into e to the power VBE by eta Vt into RC. These are all DC terms. Now this VCC minus alpha into Is into e to the power VBE by eta Vt into RC, this can be written as capital VCE that we have already seen in equation 3. So this becomes capital VCE minus alpha into Is into e to the power VBE by eta Vt can be written as IC, then into RC, into the thing that is left is VBE divided by eta Vt. Let's call this equation number 4. So if you look at equation number 4, we can see that on the left hand side we have the combined DC and AC signal. On the right hand side, this VCE denotes the DC signal. So whatever is left must be the AC signal, AC output. So small VCE, which is the AC signal, can be written as minus ICRC into VBE divided by eta Vt. So this is our output AC signal. Okay. Here VBE is the input signal and VC is the output. Now if we are considering silicon transistors, eta will be equal to 1. So VCE can be written as minus ICRC into VBE divided by VT. Now we can introduce a new term called GM, and GM is equal to IC divided by VT, and it is called the transconductance. Now we can write VCE as, that is the output AC signal, as minus GM VBE into RC. So this is our output AC signal. We also know that from the figure, from this diagram, we also know that the output value VCE can also be written as small IC into RC. So VCE can also be written as IC RC. There will be a minus sign. That means IC is equal to GM into VBE. This is another relation that we can obtain from this equations. This can be used to model a transistor, that we will see later. For now, we are satisfied with these relationships. Now our next topic is base current and input resistance at the base. So for that, we can write IB, which is the combined AC and DC signal at the base, current at the base, is equal to IC divided by beta, capital C. This IC can be written as capital I capital C plus small I small c divided by beta. So this becomes capital IC divided by beta plus small ic divided by beta. We know IC by beta as capital IB and IC by beta as small ib. So from this, we can write the pure AC input current IB as small ic divided by beta. We have already derived an equation for IC, which is GM into VBE. So this can be written as GM VBE divided by beta. Now we have a current and a voltage, that is input current and input voltage relation. So that means this beta by GM must be a resistance, right? So this beta by GM can be denoted by R pi, the resistance. So this R pi is the small signal resistance between base and emitter when we are looking into the base. Okay, I'm writing it as the resistance between base and emitter when we look into the base. Okay, now we can also define a resistance that is also a resistance between base and emitter, but that will be when we are looking into the emitter. For that, we'll write the equation for IE, which is equal to IC divided by alpha. Now we know that this can be written as IC by alpha plus small I small c divided by alpha. IC by alpha is IE and this is small ie. That means small ie is equal to small ic divided by alpha. Now we know the equation for small ic, which is GM VBE divided by alpha. Now this alpha by GM must be a resistance that we already told, that is the resistance we get when we look into the emitter, and that resistance is also between base and emitter. So that resistance is denoted by RE and it is given by alpha divided by GM. Now we know that alpha is approximately equal to 1, so RE can be approximated to 1 by GM. Now this RE can also be written as VBE divided by IE. R pi can be written as VBE divided by IB. So VBE can be written as IB into R pi, and the same as IE into RE. From this relationship, we know that IE is equal to beta plus 1 IB. So this can be written as IB into R pi is equal to beta plus 1 IB into RE. So R pi will be equal to 1 plus beta into RE. So this is the relationship between R pi and RE. So these are the small signal input resistances in a transistor. Now we have seen the operation of a common emitter configuration as an amplifier. We have also derived the equation for input, output. We have also seen there is both AC and DC signals at the input as well as the output. We have also derived equation for output voltage, output current. We have got some new terms called transconductance, input resistance when we are looking into the input through the base, and input resistance when we are looking at the input through the emitter. So now we can discuss the small signal modeling of a transistor. That will be done in the coming classes. Until then, bye.